got a bang up show for you today. We're going to be talking about, is there really a MAGA split over Iran? We'll get into that. Also, how Ma'am Danny is making poor landlords poorer and rich landlords richer. I'll get into that. And the Ayatollah, the supreme leader that's supposedly alive, is he gay? We'll get into that and more. But first, I want to get to my guest, and he's going to talk about some of these issues with me. But R.C. Williams, you guys know him. You guys love him. He's been on the show plenty of times before. And he and his wife are just doing amazing work with Watchman Action. They have a nationwide training event that's going to be happening April 4th through 5th. RC, tell us real quickly what that's going to be about, because you guys are doing one of the things that I wanted to do, in a sense, with radio, with podcasting. And it's more of a political analysis with a biblical worldview. You break things down. You're getting the church involved. I know at one point in time you were involved with TP Action, if I'm not mistaken, but you've got your own thing going with Watchman Action. So I'll tell people about it.
Yeah, Carl, it's good to be back on with you, man. It's good to be back with the Carl Jackson Show family. So, Watchman Action equips the church to engage the culture. For Juliana and I, this is our ministry. Many people know us from the show from Sherlock Market Research, which is our primary business. But with Watchman Action, Carl, we came up with a pretty comprehensive training program, 3 parts. We help people to form their story, get their story together so you can tell it succinctly. Then we help you to organize and mobilize your people, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And you don't want your best air traffic control person who makes sure all the meetings happen out knocking on doors. And then the final part is you start with the end in mind. So we help you to develop a game plan and a timeline with the milestones you need to hit to advocate for whatever issue you want and to win that battle each and every day. So, Carl, what happens is we've been all
Love
over the
that.
country. You know, we've been on with you. We've traveled all over the place and taught people. We've had people from all parts of the country say, "When are you coming? When are you coming? When are you coming?" So, what we decided to do is to just do a nationwide virtual training event. That way, people who we can't get to or can't get to us have an opportunity to do it. And this is going to be a series, Carl. We'll probably do these 2 to 3 times a year. We're calling it the Mega Training because you're going to get the whole Watchman Action training over 2 days, 8 total hours. We'll do it on a Saturday and a Sunday. And we tell people, come ready to work. Come ready with your questions, come ready with your plans, because the training is interactive and we wanted to make it available for everybody. So, Carl, for people who want to register, super easy. Just go to watchmanaction.org. You'll see it right on the front page. You'll see the link so you can get signed up. And, Carl, for you guys, if they use the code PATRIOT, they'll get 10% off. So it's
Okay.
$59 to join, but if you use Patriot, you get 10% off.
All right, use the code Patriot, get 50% off. Real quick, again, RC, there were 3 things that you mentioned right at the top that you wanted to be able to train people in effectively. Would you mention those 3 things again? Because I thought they were absolutely brilliant and I didn't want to just rush over them.
Sure, Carl. I mean, the keys to victory, right? It's being able to tell your story succinctly. So you got to get your story right.
Sure.
And then you've got to be able to organize and mobilize your people. So, you know, you don't want the best air traffic control person on your team out knocking on doors. They need to make sure they're the ones that make all the trains run on time. And then the third part is making sure that you succeed. So, what are the right tools? You got to have the right tools in place. And then you've got to work with the end in mind. So, we help you to build a timeline, working backwards from your goal, putting in your milestones and then your tasks. So, when you come out of the training, you got a great story that you can easily tell and others can tell on your behalf. You've got all your people in the right place. You know your goal. You know what you got to hit. You know when you got to hit it by, and you plug in all the pieces to get that done.
What motivated you and Juliana to do this? Because this isn't where you started necessarily, or is this something that you guys always had in mind?
Carl, it's a great question. You know us well with Sherlock Market Research. We've been on the show a bunch. This audience is probably one of the smartest and best looking, and by far the most informed
Well,
around today.
I didn't want to argue with you there. Go ahead, RC.
No, it's true,
No,
Carl.
no, just
So,
one.
with all of our research, we started writing, and that's where Rip from the Headlines came from. And we are the Watchman Weekly, which connects the dots between current events and scripture. So, in that process, we were also traveling with some pastor groups who were teaching pastors over a series of days. And it was at that point, Carl, that we realized there was a giant gap between great tools and great people. And so we said, listen,
Wow, that's
what
good.
if we bridge that gap? right? And then we created a training that was the fabric that bound it all together. And then Watchman Action was born. So we're simple: equip the church to engage the culture by helping them to build advocacy plans around the core issues that matter to them most so they can win those battles each and every day. And Carl, what we found in the 30 or 40 trainings that we've done so far, we were just in Sarasota last weekend doing one, is that the majority of people who go through our training actually start working on their issue while they're still in the training. And that's exciting because what often happens is you get trained to death. And by the time you're done, you're like, that training was great. And then nothing happens, right? It's kind of the rubber
Fair,
chicken dinner theory.
fair,
You go hear
sure.
a speaker, you have a bad rubber chicken dinner, you're excited for 12 hours, then nothing happens. 30 days later, you're back at the same place, not doing anything. We said
Yeah.
we can fix that. So that was the genesis for Watchman Action. We said, this is our ministry. This is what we were called to do for the kingdom. And we're doing that. We're playing our part and doing our job.
All right, I love that, and the reason why I think that it's extremely important, frankly, if you have a friend that wants to get politically involved, a Christian wants to learn how to engage the culture, guys, I think this is so important for the conservative movement. Keep in mind that evangelicals are the base of the Republican Party. Some libertarians might not like that. Some others may not like that. That's fine. But that is the truth of the matter. This is a Christian nation, and we do have Judeo-Christian values. But you have a bunch of commies that have come into this country. We have Islamists. I mean, we've had what is it? 4 Islamic attacks here in the United States just in the last few weeks. I believe one even before the Iranian conflict began. Maybe not, but anyway, these are things that we have to be prepared for. We have to be able to take these things on, and I'm not talking about a physical battle per se, but there's spiritual battles that I believe we need to be able to take on. And some of these spiritual battles are being played out in the political arena, and Christians like to sit back and oh yeah, that's not where God wants us. And I just think that's absolute nonsense. I just that's just not even biblical. I mean, Jesus Christ went straight to the leaders of his day and he engaged. He engaged with the leadership, he engaged with the government, he engaged with the culture, he engaged with the lowly of the lowly, he engaged with everyone. And it's amazing to me. You can go to any church oftentimes and yes, if use your gifts as a doctor, use your gifts as a lawyer, use your gifts as a mechanic, use your gifts as this, use your gifts as that, use your gifts as that. Stay away from politics. No, that is
No.
absolutely insane, especially when you see that, in my opinion, Satan often uses the vessel of politics in order to advance his kingdom. And so this is a good way to push back. So again, it's watchmanaction.org. Is that correct, RC?
Yeah, Carl, if people go to Watchman Action, it's plural. So it's
Okay,
action.org. If they go, they'll see it right on the front page. They'll see the flyer and the link to get registered. We're limiting it to a couple of hundred people. We want to make sure that we can connect with everybody in a
sure.
meaningful way. So we urge people to go. And again, if they go and they use the code Patriot, they'll get 20% off. I was just informed by the newsroom that it is
Wow.
20% off
Good
on
loud.
training because the Carl Jackson Show, people are awesome.
All
And
right.
that's what we want to do for you guys.
All right. Well, cool. Please, 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 please make sure you go to watchmanaction.org. Guys, let's kick some booty in 2026. Let's kick some booty in 2028 and all the way into eternity. Let's take this nation back, and watchmanaction.org can help you do that. Okay. RC, let's segue.
Yes.
Is there really a MAGA split over Iran? I say no, but what say you? And then let's get into some details here.
So, Carl, last time I was on with you, we had gotten into the show a bit, and I mentioned when we were talking about Iran, I said these exact words. I said, "War is coming," and after that, I said, "Also comes division." So here we are. Is there a split with the MAGA base? I think there is, Carl, in the sense of money and power. Right. So
Okay.
what you're seeing now is kind of the wheat and the chaff moment. Look, President Trump is in a difficult space with this thing. There's no easy way out of a situation like this. And they had to know going in and dealing with Iran that if you don't knock them out in the first round, then you're going to be in a position where this thing drags on for a while. That's not what I necessarily wanted to see. And was there justification to go in? Yeah, I think so. But when you get to the larger part with MAGA, yeah, there are people who said, listen, President Trump promised us no more wars. And what does he do? He gets us into war, even though this isn't technically war. He gets us into war. And there are some people who are sore with that. But Carl, I think what's underlying and what people need to watch carefully is that a lot of narratives are being shattered. The heroes that you thought that were part of MAGA really aren't. You know, they're about business and they're about money, and they will push whatever agenda is necessary to continue to collect their checks. And I think there's the other side of it that, you know, they're loyal to President Trump, and that's fine. Where I think the danger in that is, and on the Sherlock side, we've been critical of the president at times when we think that he's out of line, is that
Sure.
you can be so in lockstep with someone that you're not able to hold them accountable at all. This has been far from perfect, Carl. And I
Mm.
think it's important that those who are in the MAGA camp say, listen, this hasn't been perfect, and these are the things that we need to fix. But most definitely, I think that split is more business and financial than anything else.
Okay, so we're speaking to R.C. Williams, and listen, make sure you check out his site watchmanaction.org. Get trained up to be in the cultural battle against all of these left wing commies out there. I have a somewhat different take on this issue with Iran than RC does, but I want to talk to him about it. So you guys stay tuned. I actually think this is America first. I don't think the base is split as much as the media assumes. We'll be back with more. This is the Carl Jackson Show. RC, I'm actually really glad you had that. I'm actually really glad you had that point of view. I think we have some differences on this, and I think this is actually good.
It is, man. I mean, you know, we in our big thing with AI, you know, we've been really critical of the administration on this because the way they're going at it is wrong because of who's going to write the legislation. And what we've told people is it's okay. Like if we're not doing that, then what are we actually doing?
Yeah.
Right? Why are we a constitutional republic if we're not going to have these frank discussions? And all you're seeing, Carl, and you'll continue to see this, is who's in it for the cash and who's going to push a narrative and who isn't. And look, it'd be easy to do that. It'd be easy for either of us to do that and just collect our checks and just kind of toe the line and then go right off into the sunset. But that's not what this work calls for. This work, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
You have to
Fair.
take yourself out of it.
Yeah.
This isn't about us. This is about who comes after us.
Fair. We're live. Hey, you're hearing live chat that you won't get anywhere else. Oh yeah, don't worry. RC doesn't cuss like a sailor offline. But anyway, listen, I do.
Go ahead, Carl. Go ahead.
No, I know. But I do appreciate for those of you that are tuning in to the Carl Jackson Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, and share it with your friend, families, neighbors, and even the people that you hate, so that they can watch the show. I don't mind. Please subscribe to all of our social media at Carl Jackson Show, at the Carl Jackson Show. And remember, you can go to carljacksonstore.com, carljacksonstore.com, carljacksonstore.com. Get some goodies there that help support the show. Frankly, we would certainly appreciate that. Don't forget to sign up for watchmanaction.org, particularly if you're a Christian that wants to get involved in the cultural battle. And you need to kind of learn your talent. You need to learn your gift and how you can apply it to the cultural war that is going on. Watchmanaction.org. The code is Patriot. Patriot. Just write in the word Patriot. You will get 20% off. Okay, without any further ado, let's go right back to the programming here, Gabe. Although I do need to take a swig, but let's go ahead and go back. You tell me when, Gabe. I was going to say, I can't hear him, but all right. All right, welcome back to the program. I'm joined with my guest, R.C. Williams of WatchmanAction.org. I almost said R.C. Sproul. R.C. Sproul, R.C.
Happens occasionally.
WatchmanAction.org, WatchmanAction.org, WatchmanAction.org. Okay, so we're asking the question, is MAGA really split over Iran? And R.C. makes some very good points. I actually have a different point of view. And this is some polling that has come out. Granted, this is it's polling, right? Sometimes polling is created to create a narrative. I don't necessarily believe that's the case with this particular situation, but you had, I think it was 87% of Republicans in a CNN poll that said they're actually for the war. You had 90% of people that consider themselves MAGA or more conservative that says they are for the war. However, they don't want a long, protracted war. They don't want a quote unquote forever war. Now, having said that, I don't think this is going to be a forever war. And I think you can just look at the rules of engagement and the fact that the gloves are off for proof positive that President Trump isn't going to go that way. Another thing that gives me courage and comfort when it comes to this particular Iranian conflict. And by the way, some of you probably have called me a neocon in the past because I'm one of the people that have said, and I've been consistent on this. I am more of a war hawk than probably some conservatives, and I just straight up admit it. I don't like the 20-year wars. I don't like any of that stuff. If America is going to be involved in a war, I'm one of these people where I want to kick butt and I want to take names. I don't think it needs to be long. And I think President Trump is showing us the way that war should have been fought for ever since World War II. You guys might remember Stuart Scheller. Stuart Scheller, he wrote a book, Crisis of Command, I believe it's called. He's working with the Trump administration. This was the guy after the the situation at the Kabul airport, the Afghanistan withdrawal, 13 service members basically blown up. They could have been stopped. I mean, he literally called out his commanders, ahead of him. And as a result of that, I mean, the guy was jailed for it. He's working with SecDef Pete Hegseth, or Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and the rules of engagement that these guys are creating are amazing. I would also say this: Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, and none of these places exist in a vacuum when it comes to geopolitics. I believe that President Trump is trying his best, even though he's gonna lighten sanctions with Russia, but the goal is to choke China off, get them out of the Western Hemisphere. Essentially, the Done Road doctrine, and he's weakening all of their allies. So there's a lot of people out there that I think are anti-Semitic. They don't like Jews. They want to blame Jews for this. But I think this is a war. I think I outlined last week 46 attacks that have killed Americans ever since 1979. And we've done nothing about it. And I want this threat to end. I think that if this threat ends now, we don't have to worry about going back to the Middle East, at least not as often, or at least not when it's absolutely necessary. And it will just be for a cleanup mission. So I'm for this because I don't want to have to send our troops back. And honestly, I love the fact that President Trump is using energy dominance as a way to choke off China, because I think that's who he's really going after in this. But having said that, I want to give the floor back to you, RC.
Carl, you make a great point. And so, listen, I think one of the challenges and the reason we got here in the first place, and President Trump is having to do cleanup, is because we had a series of weak administrations facing the world. Now, on this show, I've said this before: the administration of former President Barack Obama, he was treated like a kid on the world stage, because world politics is like the penitentiary. And the sooner that people understand that, the better off we'll all be, right? I think that what we did need is someone strong in President Trump who says, "Listen, there is an order, okay, in the sense that the world needs to operate in a particular way so that there is peace and security. And if you choose to step out of line and it threatens our interests, we're going to have to deal with that." So, was Iran necessary? Likely, because there's so much we don't know that won't be declassified for years. Carl, I think the challenge for people is how this went down. And of all the
Sure.
people
Fair.
that pointed this out, Congressman Corey Mills made a great point a couple of weeks ago. He said, "Here's the challenge: President Trump is not doing anything outside of his executive powers. The problem is Congress continued to give away that power, and they need to step back in and deal with this type of stuff so that there is clarity on what this is and what it isn't, because technically it's not a war, right? This
Sure.
is a strategic military action, which fine. President Trump is well within his power, but I think the other part too, Carl, is that when you're going to make a move like this, I'm a boxing fan, so I always use the boxing analogies. If you're going to go into a situation like this, you got to knock the guy out in the first round, because you very quickly, people lose their taste for conflict very quickly, especially when they feel like they've got bigger problems at home. They start asking lots of questions. So, in the long term, does this solve some problems? I think so. I think in the short term, and I agree with you, I think there are some experts coming to the table that are trying to help to unwind this and get it done. But
Sure.
when we get a chance to look at the DNA on this thing, I think there were some huge steps missed that could have gotten this thing done and a whole lot quicker.
Okay, so all right, so I'm totally of a different opinion. I believed all along the minute that he decided that he would go into Iran, that the United States would go into Iran, that we would help out in this fight with Israel. Israel, who, by the way, in my opinion, has now become our number one ally. It's no longer the UK. That's my opinion. I figured it would take 60 to 90 days, and I thought that that would be the period of time that it would take to knock out this regime. I think it's going to happen faster than that. And frankly, I think the Trump administration knows, given the fact that there are, frankly, people like you that are intellects, RC, that are pushing back on this and saying, wait a minute, this isn't what I voted for. I'm one of these people that I believe this is what we need. I don't believe this is going to be long and protracted. I think he's going to use, even though I think we both would agree the War Powers Resolution isn't necessarily constitutional, but the Congress ceded their power, as you mentioned, to the President of the United States. So he's got 60 days. He had to give them inform them within 48 hours. He's got 30 days to withdraw, and at that point, Congress can open their mouths. Congress doesn't want to take this take this responsibility because they're absolutely feckless. It's the reason why we've only declared war. What has it been like 5 times in our history? There's been
Yeah.
120. I think there's been 120 military actions by presidents where they didn't declare war, including with Thomas Jefferson himself with the Barbary Pirates. So I even wonder, as far as the Declaration is concerned, because they changed it originally from Congress shall make war to Congress shall declare war, and I almost wonder if the Declaration thing. In my opinion, I'm not exactly sure. I got to go back and read more history, but I wonder if the declaration of war is just kind of ornamental, if you will, and then again, and regardless, you see Congress has ceded its power. But the reason why I do understand, and I think it's important to hear RC's concern, because everyone has a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to war. Here's what we're used to seeing. I was looking at an article earlier by Victor Davis Hanson, and it's entitled, "Is There Really I believe it's entitled, Is There Really a MAGA Split?" And basically, the complaints were in Victor Davis Hanson's column, even though he argued for this, was over 8,000 dead and more injured in the Afghanistan and Iraq debacle. And that's the way that it was handled. We already mentioned the 13 service members that were blown up, and obviously we've lost 13, just losing another 6 recently. So God rest their souls. You guys pray for their families. But 13 that we lost at Abbey Gate, billions of dollars of weaponry that we left behind, and this is the taste. This is the taste that has been left in many Americans' mouth, and that's why I think Trump is determined to do this differently. So RC is upset with the timing, or at least bothered by the timing. I think this is amazing. I think what we're seeing are the gloves off. I've never heard of an enemy that has lost their missile defense, lost their Navy fleet, lost their missile fleet, literally within a matter of a couple of weeks. This is absolutely unheard of. And I think what's happening now, from what I understand, what's happening now, the troops that are on the ground are Israeli troops that are going in and kicking butt and taking names, getting some of the IRGC and the Banji or whoever those fools are. Hopefully they kill them all. But so that's why I think this will wrap up within 60 to 90 days. That is my hope. If it doesn't, I will say this. I can see at that point, to RC's point, because a lot of MAGA people will be absolutely upset if it doesn't wrap up relatively quickly. But I think Trump is doing the right thing. And I think the timing is really good thus far.
So, Carl, I mean, look, there's so much we don't know, right? Did Trump have to make a move? Likely, or they probably wouldn't have made it. I mean, it's a pretty big deal, right? When you do
Sure.
something like this.
Fair.
I think for some people, what they saw in Venezuela is they saw a surgical strike, but they saw use of new weaponry. I don't know how many people followed this, but they knocked out Maduro's guard in like 15 seconds because they
Sure.
used a combination of sound and other targeted strike weapons. And I think some people wonder if, listen, if you were just going to cut the head off the snake and go after the Ayatollah and the mullahs, could you not have done the same thing relatively quickly and been done with it? Or what else don't we know? Now, again, there's so much that's classified. Obviously, you can't let everybody know what you're going to do. But I think those questions come up, Carl, when you have a situation like Venezuela and then you go to Iran. And the next thing that's on our doorstep is the situation in Cuba. They're being squeezed right now, right? It's about to
Yeah.
open up, and you start to wonder what's like, well, if those actions were quick and kinetic, then what happened with Iran? What is the difference if we're the biggest military and most powerful military in the world? What happened? Legitimate questions. Again,
Okay.
so much we don't know, but those are legitimate questions from people.
Can you stick with me for one more segment, RC? You have the time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more segment. RC Williams, watchmanaction.org, watchmanaction.org. A great conversation. I want to continue with it. Good stuff, RC. Good stuff,
Yeah,
man.
man. Listen, I am, I say this, anything I say, it's not like I wouldn't say it publicly. I'd stand out on a street corner and say, so I don't care. We're still streaming is, you grew up in LA. I grew up in San Francisco, and growing up in the hood, you understand how it works. That's why I say world politics is like the penitentiary. People need to understand that when a bully poses a threat, they have to be neutralized. So maybe I'm not a war hawk per se, but I understand muscle and when to use it. And I think that one of the things that we weren't really ready for, and this is still kind of playing out, is after 9/11, we're
Yes.
dealing with an enemy in a very different way, right? So, us being lax pre Trump and letting all of these people in that are basically sleeper cells, you don't know what triggers them. You don't know where, how they're going to attack. They're going to do it unconventional. And that's the kind of two-headed monster that we're fighting right now. It's
Yeah.
like if you go, and Napoleon understood this for as crazy as he was, if you decapitate the leadership
We
quickly,
got to
you
get
kill
this.
morale.
This is a great point, RC, and I want to make sure that it's live because it's
Sure.
in the podcast too. So let's get to it. Let's go right back to it,
Yeah.
and then if you can remember what you said, because it is a great point. I actually think there's an answer to it, but it is a very good point. I want to make sure that people hear it.
You got it, boss. Whatever you need.
All right, you let us know here, Gabe. I used to always call people boss when I was a little thug. I don't know why. I haven't called everybody boss in chief when I didn't know their name. All right. Are we live? I'm sorry. Oh, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. I'm joined with my guest, RC Williams, watchmanaction.org, watchmanaction.org. Don't forget, guys, please sign up. When is the event again, RC? Please remind me. I can pull it up on my phone, but I know you know it
I
off the
got you,
top
my
of
friend. So, Watchman Action Mega Training Event is happening April 4th and 5th. It is online. We're going to do a Zoom webinar. So, if people go to watchmanaction.org, they can get themselves registered. What they get is they get access to the full event and the recording, because Sunday is Easter Sunday. For those who can't make it, we're going to record it so you can go back and train at your leisure. You also, Carl, get a digital copy of the training manual that you can print so you have all the information in front of you when we train. So people go to watchmanaction.org, April 4th and 5th. That's the big event. And we're excited to have as many people as we can possibly get through the door so we can get them trained up.
Okay. All right. Now let's get right back to the conversation. Is there really a MAGA split over Iran? And again, if you look at the polling would suggest otherwise. But I have to admit, there are a lot of people that are, they don't like this idea of going into Iran. They believe that it is totally unnecessary. And RC, you were making some great points during the break. If you would continue with those points, I do believe that I have at least somewhat of an answer for them, or at least I like to try and answer them. But I'd love for the audience to hear your argument, because one thing, whether you agree or disagree with RC, he's always going to make a great argument.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. So what we're talking about during the break is the fact that, you grew up in LA, I grew up in San Francisco. Being in the hood, you understand power dynamics, which is why I said that world politics is like the penitentiary. Now, look, as I said earlier, I'm a boxing fan. If you need to knock somebody out, you need to knock them out. Like, don't let a bum hang around, because if you let a bum hang around long enough, they will eventually knock you out, or they'll hurt you real bad. So, Carl, what I was saying is that after 9/11, we're dealing with an enemy in a different way, right?
Fair.
What did Clubber Lang say about Rocky? Balboa's my type. He comes straight ahead. But then when Balboa changed his tactics and went non-traditional, Clubber Lang was confused. So take that for a second and understand that pre-Trump, having these weak administrations or whatever deals were being done, we let so many of the enemy into the country, Carl, that we don't know what's going to set off a sleeper cell. And we're kind of in a battle where we're dealing with people who fight Krav Maga style. If you've ever done that, Israeli close quarter combat is highly effective, but it is very untraditional. So it's hard for us now to say, we're going to go into this thing and then we're just going to kind of see what happens. We can't do that. Napoleon figured this out, for as crazy as he was, is that he knew he had to go in and decapitate the leadership of a group as quickly as possible, because if he could do that, in a meaningful way, he would kill the morale of all the other soldiers and they would basically stop fighting. Carl, I think that's why when I look at this, I say, look, man, we've got the greatest military in the history of the world. We can deliver knockout blows. We did it in Venezuela in less than 36 hours, and it was done. And we used some weaponry that scared the heck out of people, right? People are going to start asking if we did that there, why couldn't we do that in Iran? And coming right up behind that is the situation in Cuba. We're squeezing Cuba right now to the point
Sure.
where Cuba said, Uncle, we're going to open up our borders. You want to come in and invest? Great. Cuba's about to be broken wide open. So people say, we did it with Cuba. You did it with Venezuela. What's going on with Iran? More
Fair.
complex. I will certainly say that. But people start asking those questions because we're dealing with a non conventional enemy, Carl, and we're already starting to see those cells activate in the US, which is going to have people on edge.
Okay, so this is what I say. Praise God to that, and I'll tell you why. I believe that if Trump didn't deal with this, we would be forced to deal with this. And I'll just straight up say it. Whether it's a lefty may win in 2028. JD
Mhm.
Vance, I'll be honest with you. I don't have enough. I think JD Vance would make a great president. I don't know that he would make an exceptional president. There's some things about JD Vance I question. I That's why I am not a. Basically, I want to fight. I want to see DeSantis on stage. I want to see Rubio. I want to see JD Vance. I don't want I forget the name now. I don't want a coronation.
Yeah.
I simply don't want that. I think we have to deal with this threat while Trump is in office. And I would argue this when it comes to Venezuela. Venezuela was set up very different. Venezuela, obviously, with Maduro, he had his close knit people, and I mean, it was so bad. He was paranoid, like Bill Clinton was back in the day. He had to have Cubans that were his security guard, basically, or what have you. They were able to knock them out effectively because Maduro was so paranoid. He didn't have his tentacles everywhere. Now, I would argue that the Ayatollah was somewhat paranoid, but he was smart enough to make sure that his tentacles expanded across the entire country through the IRGC, through the Benji, or whatever that the crazies that were going around killing people, upwards of 1 million people. And so the
Yeah.
only way that we could do the type of damage that we're doing, and I think we're doing exceptional damage, because remember, it's the U.S. and Israel working together, where President Trump is like, listen, we're going to knock out the big infrastructure, but when it comes go time, when it comes for troops on the ground, you guys are going to have to do a lot of the work, because that's just something that we don't necessarily want to do. But what we're going to do is lay the ground game. And actually, the weaponry that they've been using in Iran has actually worked magnificently, to the point where, remember, it was Iran that bought some of China's hypersonic missile defense systems and all that kind of stuff. It has done nothing against the United States of America. So people are seeing the power of the United States of America even through Iran, and that's why I think this. I think because because Trump has been so tactical with Soleimani, with Maduro. But this was always going to be a longer battle. This was always going to be a longer conflict, or dare I say war. I just don't think it'll be past 60 or 90 days. And frankly, the weaponry that they have been using, again, to take out the Navy, to take out the missile fleet, to take out missiles, to pinpoint the leadership, they did something differently. Remember, what Trump did is he took out the leadership, he took out the top dog, so that there would be chaos, so that there
Mhm.
would be infighting, because the goal was, if we're not going to put boots on the ground, the Iranian people are going to have to fight for themselves, or perhaps the military, law enforcement, who are not the IRGC, that are a little bit more loyal to the people, might say, hey, we're going to fight alongside you guys. But short of putting boots on the ground, the best thing that the Trump administration, the U.S., can do is knock out Iran's ability and their leadership to be able to attack anyone. And we see what happened. All of these people in the Middle East that thought that they could just kowtow to Iran. Look at where all the missiles flew. People want to blame Israel. People want to blame the United States. Those people had those missiles set on those other countries because
Yep.
Iran was destined to take over. They wanted to take over the Middle East. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, Trump is smart. You start with the easy one. You start with Venezuela, because you know his apparatus is weak. You know you can choke off Cuba. You know you can sanction Russia. You can prevent oil from going in and out. And then we go with the next big dog. We go with Iran. But obviously their infrastructure is much better. Several tiers. Again, 1 million IRGC. That's totally different than Maduro, who's one guy and has a security team who we can use like some stuff to bust their eardrums, go in, disorient them, and kill them. I just think that what Trump is doing, they're not getting the credit that they deserve. Listen to this real quick, and I'll let you
Yeah.
respond
Okay,
here,
Carl.
RC.
Yeah.
Total air attack is gone. The skies are open. 50 to 60 top leaders taken out, 100 scientists taken out, generals taken out, mullahs taken out, political leaders taken out, to the point where we may have a gay ayatollah that may be around with one less leg. We don't know. We tried negotiating, that didn't work. But now we're using weaponry, drones even, where we've now surpassed it. Ukraine had the best capability when it came to drones because they had developed it during Russia. We've surpassed Ukraine in our technology when it comes to drones in a very short period of time. So I got to say, I just think, I mean, our ability to be able to take out one of the supposed top enemies of our day and expose them as a paper tiger with our pinpoint strikes and with the IDF on the ground. I got to tell you, this thing is moving way faster than I thought it would.
So, Carl, let me put a bow on this, right? Because here we are back at the beginning. And I think here's what the biggest challenge is. Now,
Okay.
we've laid out a very cohesive case about what could be right and what could be wrong. And I think most people would say, you know what? I can see all of that together and come to a conclusion that makes sense to me as to why we're doing this and why it's happening this way. Here is the challenge that we run into. All due respect to President Trump, you've got to cohesively and coherently deliver this message to the American people. You can't come out one
Fair,
day and say, I think this is going to be done
fair.
in a day, and then come back and say, I think it's going to be 60. Carl, from the leader of the free world, the world expects guidance and stability. And if it's going to be bad, just tell people it's going to be bad. Lay it out, be very clear. Hey, listen, this is going to take a minute. Here's what we expect to happen. That's all I can tell you, but please understand it's going to be in this time frame. When you start to waffle, because then what happens is that when the president of the United States speaks, the markets move. And that's always dangerous when you're shooting for stability, not $4 plus a gallon gas, right?
Sure.
You've got to be clear with the American people. And if I could say anything to President Trump and the administration is mean what you say and say what you mean. And don't let the day decide you're in a mood, you feel a certain way, you want to talk about a certain thing in a certain way. Don't let that deter from a very clear message that the American people and people around the world, frankly, need to hear, because they look at us and they say, if America is doing this, it is for stability, security, and peace. That's how we're perceived when we do things like this, outside of whoever says America's crazy. We are a little bit, but not like that. So if that's the move, we have to be consistent in our messaging. If we're not, Carl, we end up with conversations like this where people like are genuinely confused and they come to us and they're like, what's the answer? Can you just help me understand what the context is? If I could say anything to the administration, it would be that. Like, just mean what you say and say what you mean and stay consistent with the message.
And you know what? And I would say that's a fair point. The only thing that I would push back on is President Trump has, I give him the benefit of the doubt because the guy wants to be unpredictable. And I agree with you, the communication could be much better. But at the same time, again, I give him the benefit of the doubt because he likes being unpredictable. However, I will concede if this goes past 60 to 90 days, this is going to spell trouble, I do believe, for the Trump administration. I don't think it's going to go past 60 days. I think we are witnessing something that is absolutely historic. And for the first time since World War II, the U.S. military President Trump has allowed the military to take in the gloves off, and they are kicking booty as a result of this. And I think when it's all said and done, people have short memories today. As long as President Trump can get this economy back going by the summer and get gas prices down, this will almost be forgotten. But anyway, RC, watchmanaction.org. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right. RC, we just have to make sure man, that was good conversation, RC. That was one of the best conversations I've had in some time. I'm not going to lie. You were
That's what we do, man.
challenging my thinking there. Good stuff. Good stuff.
We have to, because if we don't, then what are we doing, right? And this has been
Yeah,
my argument the whole time, is that in a constitutional republic, we are specifically designed for this type of engagement.
yeah,
And people can be wrong, But if you don't let them express themselves, you'll never have any context on how to correct them.
It's
And
good.
there are going to be some things where we're like, hey, listen, here's how I see it. And the thing for President Trump is, I get he likes to be unpredictable. Here's a challenge. You can be unpredictable to a point, but as we tell people on the business side, because what we do on the research side, if you're not careful, everything you say it's systemic, right? Because when you're the president of the United States, people take you literally, right?
It's
It's
fair.
like us. If we go train and we say tomorrow, hey, here's everything you need to do, and it's all wrong, people will take us literally because our reputation is those people know what they're talking about. And so we have to be very conscious. Like when you have a microphone in front of you, we're doing this right now. We have to be very conscious of what we say and what we don't say,
Sure.
right?
It's fair.
Because people take that and run with it.
Yeah. No, listen, strong points, fair points. At some point in time, they started arguing. Listen, we want to make sure there's no nukes. We want to make sure that there's no missile capability. We want to make sure the Navy. They may perhaps they need to repeat this over and over again. I think there needs to be somebody. Frankly, I think Rubio needs to be out there more to explain what's happening in the macro. And I do believe that more people would get behind it. But you're right. I do agree that it has to end quick. I have full confidence that this is going to end before 90 days, actually 60 to 90 days. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to bring you back on and say, RC, I was wrong. All right, we better get the economy back up and going, and these gas prices down quick.
I
So
want to be
anyway,
wrong, Carl. I so want to be wrong.
you
Like
you know what's so
you know me.
no, it's a fair point. What's so frustrating to me, I hope this serves as an opportunity. We don't need oil from the Middle East. And that's why our so-called NATO allies are really pissing me off. We don't need that oil. What is it? 1 to 2% of our oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. We are drilling here in the Western Hemisphere. And now we've got Venezuela so much. So at some point, the Trump administration is going to have to figure out how do we divorce ourselves um, from that. I'm hoping all of that will come from this. So we'll see.
Carl, the Saudis have to have a soft landing on this thing because a promise was made years ago with Kissinger as to why we do what we do in the Middle East. And so the Saudis, the deal was oil in exchange for protection, and everybody would buy in US dollars. That's changing, but Saudi Arabia is an ally, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
That has to be dealt with, which is why I think we have some of this residual because those promises were made, not necessarily for the better.
Yeah.
Opinion, not necessarily for the better, but they're still there. And so the Saudis have to have some assurances that they're going to be okay in this whole thing. So
Yeah, you know what? And I have a sneaky suspicion that they are, which is why the prince has been in public saying no, 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 you can't use our bases, our airspace, or at least initially, and then calling Trump. They've been talking every day. I just heard reports that they've been talking every day, and he has been begging Trump finish the job. They've got the pipeline going through Saudi Arabia to try to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. So Saudi Arabia is trying to make sure they stay independent. And these people are still trading in petrodollars. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But we'll see. Again, I will. God's the honest truth. I will be inviting you on to say, Carl, I told you so. If this thing goes past 60 or 90 days,
listen,
because
man, like
I'll
I
be
said,
slapping myself at that point because I'll be like, okay, dude, we cannot lose this election. We
Carl,
need
do
to
you
at
know?
least.
So we've talked about this for years. I always want to be wrong. Here's what's crazy. You are so at the cutting edge. When I came on, when we did the Wegman story,
Uh-huh.
one of the things I talked about was the relationship between Ring cameras and Flock AI. Do you
Okay.
know that Amazon got so much heat from the Super Bowl commercial that they broke off their relationship with Flock AI?
No, I didn't know that.
And we told people, we're like, listen, y'all need to step up and deal with this. And so Ring thought that people were so enamored with the fact they could have a Ring camera. They ran a Super Bowl commercial basically telling you were in a surveillance state and those Ring cameras were going to be
That
turned
is
inside
scary.
on you. And
Yep.
people had enough. They finally said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And Amazon was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't remove your Ring cameras. Just we'll break up with Flock. Right? That it went
Wow.
quick. If people
Well, maybe I
will
do
step
remember.
up and say it's enough,
Yeah.
if you would just step up and say it's enough, these people, they'll fold like a cheap suit.
Hmm. Well, I hope they do that with the Save America Act. Um,
Me too, man. They need to come
but
on and handle the business.
all right, good stuff, man. All right, appreciate you, RC. I'm gonna
All right,
get
brother.
to. All right, take care, man.
All right, you guys all good? Do you have what you need? I see still uploading, so let me know what I need to do.
You're good to
All
go.
right,
All
I'll see
right,
y'all later.
thank you, RC.
Peace. No problem. Bye.
All right, we'll go. Let me just look at the cut sheet. Hello to all of you that are tuning in. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Carl Jackson Show. Certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys watching. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation. Even some of the conversation, though it was live to you, it will be offline to people that chose not to watch this broadcast live. And we certainly appreciate all of you guys tuning in to the program for sure here. I'm going to take a quick swig and I want to get back to this. There's a couple of stories that are out there. Hopefully, I have them. Let me make sure I have them on my laptop. Um, yeah, at least I have one on my phone. But this guy, the Ayatollah, may be gay. The latest Ayatollah Jr. So I do want to get into that briefly, and I do want to cover. RC made a great point, guys. We are going to have to watch out for some of these sleeper cells inside of the United States. And frankly, I am so glad that President Trump is in office right now, as opposed to someone else that would not be handling this. So, in that sense, maybe he woke up a sleeping giant, but frankly, it's better now than, God forbid, another commie like Joe Biden get in office and don't deal with this, open up the borders more. Unfortunately, President Trump was so. I mean, he was given a raw deal, and he took it. Frankly, I thought that the economy, when he first came into office, before we go back online here, I thought the economy would possibly crash, and then he would have to restore it, and he would have to act quickly. But he's been able to actually do good work with the economy. I'm not the biggest fan of tariffs, although I liked using them as leverage. I would prefer at this point we went to free market trading and then just leveraged China and any of our enemies to make trade really tough for them. Hold on just a second. I am just so anyway. Um, that's where we're at. Oh man, I don't know, Brian. Oh, these people. No, it's not your land to decide whether Israel has the right to exist. Man, running Uganda, Mandani scam them again. He wants to raise a state. All right, let's do this. Actually, let's go. We'll be talking about Zoran Mamdani. And what did I say I would call this thing here, Gabe? I don't even remember. But I need to get to some of those. To blah, 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 blah. Sorry. Sorry for all of you tuning in. I just want to make sure I have the right. Um, why rich landlords are getting richer. All right, why rich landlords are getting richer under Ma'am Danny. Okay, let me take a swig and then let's do this like Brutus. Okay, Mr. Cassiano, yes, sir. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, this is your daily dose of freedom. Guys, I want to talk about Mayor Mom Donnie and why rich landlords are actually getting richer under Ma'am Danny, and the small mom and pop landlords are losing their shirts, and they're going to continue to lose their shirts if Ma'am Donnie's policies come to fruition. So I know there's a lot of news out there today, but one of the stories that I feel is so important. This was a Wall Street Journal column that hit today. Wall Street Journal, Ma'am Danny's rental plan risk pushing small landlords toward extinction. There's an extinction or a distinction, excuse me, that I'm going to be making during this particular podcast. And it's so very important. Guys, Ma'am Danny is a communist. All right. This is very important that you understand this. This guy eventually believes in taking over the means of production. All right. He wants to take away your property rights. He wants to take away your business. He wants the government to run these things. And how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You have to understand that this is what Mamdani is doing. I was speaking earlier to R.C. Williams of WatchmanAction.org. One of the things that he said, some of you that were still watching during the break might remember, one of the things that we have to watch out for are obviously the sleeper cells and stuff like that, that perhaps Trump is awakening inside of the United States. I argue that's a good thing. We want to know who these commies are. We want to know who these Islamists are, so that we can take them on. God forbid you get another Joe Biden in office, another Barack Obama, or some of these people that are going to acquiesce or appease the radical left or Islamists. And so sadly, the Biden administration has put us in a bad situation, both financially and also as far as national security is concerned, with the wide open borders and stuff like that, and also with foreign policy. So President Trump has to deal with foreign policy. He has to deal with the consequences even of that foreign policy when it comes to domestic national security and also domestic financial security. Now, having said this, Mamdani is a threat. Mamdani is going to make you poor. Remember, Democrats are only successful when you are unsuccessful ultimately. That is why their policies aren't created to work. All right, that's why all they can do is try to get you mad about Trump, while they continue, they get you mad, they get you angry, they get you upset with Republicans, they get you upset with Trump, and their agenda is to slowly take away more and more and more and more and more of your power. They make you angry, they pretend like they're championing your causes, but what they do is they take power from you. Remember, we the people Danny is doing. Oh, you guys are tired of this. Oh, you guys are victims. Oh, you guys are oppressed. Let me champion those causes for you. Let me fight for you. But in exchange, you're going to have to give me some power. It's different from when a person comes into power and says, listen, I am going to relinquish some power. I'm going to give you power back. For example, a small and good example are tax cuts. Republicans typically are for tax cuts. Not all, because many of them are weak and feckless. But generally speaking, Republicans are for tax cuts. What do tax cuts do? What are taxes? Taxes take money from you, take money from the taxpayer. So if you have tax cuts, what do you get to do? You get to keep more of your money, not government. But then you have people like Ma'am Danny that'll demonize the rich, and say, all right, we're going to take more from the rich. We're going to tax the rich, tax the rich. And poor people and middle class people are sitting there, yeah, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. You mean tax the job creators so the job creators can leave? So that there's fewer people working for those job creators, so that there's no longer a middle class, so that there's more poor people. So remember, when you hear these politicians talking about taxing the rich, just understand that that means jobs are going to go bye-bye. Whenever the government says they're going to take away your money that you've earned, and confiscate your money, that is not a good thing. That is not something that'd be celebrated. That is totally un-American. Now, having said that, I'm going to explain why Mamdani is going to make landlords in New York City, particularly the middle class landlords, poor. All right. So again, the story was from Wall Street Journal. Let me give you the summary. New York City small family owned rent stabilized properties fear extinction amid new laws, rising costs, and Mayor Zoran Mamdani's housing proposals. I'm going to play a video for you. This is cut number 7. If we can get it ready here, Gabe. Cut number 7. New York City voters are panicking after learning that Mayor Mamdani scammed them again. He wants to raise the estate tax to 50%, at 750,000, not 7 million. So this is kind of a different issue, but it's still a tax issue. So let's go to that cut number 7. Por favor, Gabe.
I think that nationally we should raise the estate tax, both to bring in more revenue and for equity reasons. I think we should be very, very careful about doing it just in New York, because people are mobile and they're potentially more mobile later in life when their kids are grown and they may be retired. And it would really undermine the whole purpose of a move like that if people left. we'd actually get less revenue. That would be bad for everybody.
The business community has been blasting the proposal. Bill Ackman posted on X, quote, Mamdani's strategy appears to make New York City an unattractive place to live and to die. Mamdani is facing a $5.4 billion city budget deficit for the fiscal year that begins July 1st. This is one of the ways he is looking to close that gap. Harris?
Wow, that line from Bill Ackman, I mean, you don't want to live here and you don't want to die here. That is some strong stuff. Madison, thank you. Any moment now, President Trump will have lunch with the Trump-Kennedy Center board members. He's also expected to take questions.
We can cut it there, Gabe. All right, so we can, this is not good for New York City. They're going to be losing money. They're not going to be making more money because rich people are going to continue to leave. And now the people that are going to be left behind are going to be the middle class and the poor that have no place to go. This guy's making New York City a hellhole, and he's doing it pretty quickly. I hope that he loses in 4 years, but it's New York City after all. So who knows? So here's a summary from the Wall Street Journal. So again, New York City small family-owned rent-stabilized properties fear extinction amid new laws, rising costs, and Mamdani's housing proposal. So here's an example, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, so forgive me. Natalia Bonanno's family has owned rent-stabilized properties in New York City since the 80s, when her Italian immigrant father purchased the first, a 40-unit Brooklyn building that was her childhood home. The two buildings haven't made money in years because of recent laws limiting rent increases. So laws that limit rent increases. So you've got politicians that are telling property owners, wait a minute, I know you want to fix up your apartment. I know you want to make a little money. You can't do that. You can't raise the rent. Okay, well, I can't raise the rent. If I can't raise the rent, I can't afford to fix up the properties for tenants and all this kind of stuff. Understand what this leads to. So you've got recent laws limiting rent increases paired with higher mortgage rates as well, and other rising costs. So you have this family that were hanging on to their hopes to hold on to this unit, but they simply can't. Mamdani's housing proposals to freeze rents and increase property taxes are making matters worse for all of the people of New York City, or the landlords of New York City. So again, his housing proposals, freeze rents, increase property taxes. He wants to increase property taxes by 9.5%. Guys, the very rich people are mobile, but the people that are barely making it, these people that perhaps own some units, but they haven't been able, their rent, they've had a rent freeze for God knows how long. They're rent stabilized apartments. Now they're getting a tax increase, so they've got to pay more to the city, but they can't raise their rents. How are they going to cover that? These people are going to be called slum lords or the slum landlords, but they can't help but not to fix up their buildings. It's absolutely insane. Bonanno decided she has to sell. These people have owned these properties since the 80s. They have to sell. Though these proposals haven't been passed, the Bonannos realize that this is a threat. Here's a quote from the Bonannos. Reviewing all the numbers from last year, it's not really getting better. And New York City's mom and pop landlords, once a fixture, according to the Wall Street Journal, of the city's housing landscape, are now staring at extinction. Owning a New York City building with even a half dozen units was for decades a reliable source of business or income for these families. Not anymore. The sometimes middle-class families that operated rent-stabilized apartments could count on steady income that would rise with inflations. Apartments in well-located neighborhoods rarely had trouble finding tenants. But now many of these properties are barely above water, or now they're even underwater. And the crazy thing is, the banks won't even foreclose on the properties. Why won't the banks foreclose on the properties? Because they don't want distressed properties on their books. And sadly, with Zoran Mamdani in charge, this is going to happen more and more. People are going to be losing their shirts. It's going to be harder for people to be able to sell these units, unless rich people just come in and take them over. But in the end, I don't even see the incentive for rich people to come in and take them over if they're not going to be allowed to raise the rents. I mean, this absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. So this guy came in with this, riding on a white horse, talking about how he was coming in to help the poor, lower rents, and all this kind of stuff. his policies, his proposals are having the exact opposite effect. More on this when we get back. This is the Carl Jackson Show. Hello, guys. Just another reminder. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Carl Jackson Show. Check out our store, carljacksonstore.com, carljacksonstore.com, carljacksonstore.com. We would certainly appreciate that. And I want to get back just momentarily to what's happening in New York City, because it's a testament as to what's going to happen here in the United States of America. And it's really a scary thought. Okay. Let me see just real quick. What number is that? 5, that's 6. Next, Native events, the Straits Labor Border, and NATO. All right. Where and when equipped people are learning how to use guns. No way. Prime Minister reveals Great Britain will work with the U.S. on ensuring it's open for oil. This comes after President Trump said he is watching. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's, man, I did not bring all of my research in. That is really not a good thing. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. Gabe, let's get back to it if we can, and I will find, okay, 7. All right, let's come back in with cut 7. Cut 7 if we could here. Gabe, por favor. Yeah, it's a little off the beaten path, but it'll work. Okay.
Think that nationally we should raise the estate tax, both to bring in more revenue and for equity reasons. I think we should be.
Okay. Again, that was no, that's not the one that I was looking for. Forgive me. I apologize here. Bear with me for just a second here. All right. Anyway, let me get back to the subject. I was looking for. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It was cut number 6. It's cut number 6. I apologize. It's totally different. It's about Palestinians, but I just want to give people an understanding who Zohran Mamdani is. So I apologize. Let's play cut number 6.
Politicians that constantly reaffirm Israel's right to exist. Because people like me are constantly attacked by politicians for standing up for Palestine, and you are constantly defending the right for Israel to exist. My family is in Palestine right now, constantly under attack, and I'm hearing you say free Palestine, but also Israel has the right to exist. Don't be hypocritical. Don't be hypocritical and say free Palestine when you're also defending the right for Israel to exist. It does not have the right to exist. It does not have the right to exist. It's not your land to say it has the right to exist.
Wow. It's not your land to decide whether Israel has the right to exist, says the man that doesn't understand that Palestine doesn't exist. This is who we're dealing with. And unfortunately, that is Zohran Mamdani's base. His base, for all of you that voted for him because you wanted a piece of the American dream, that's his base. Communists, radicals, that's his base. Let me get back to this story real quick. So the landlords have stopped keeping up their units in New York City now, uninterested in spending on apartments. This, according to the Wall Street Journal, that would take years for them to make a return. And now Mamdani is promising a crackdown on top of that on landlords who aren't properly maintaining their buildings. So they can't afford to maintain their buildings as a result of as a result of de Blasio in 2019. Here's where it started, I believe. Small landlords' financial plight didn't start with Mamdani. A 2019 law that aimed to make housing more affordable in the city restricted rent stabilized landlords' ability to raise their rents. Then interest rates started to soar in 2022. Obviously, that was during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown era. So Mamdani, he doesn't want slumlords, but his policies are going to create more slumlords by necessity. Now, here's a quote from Mamdani. We've already stepped up to protect tenants who are living in buildings that landlords have neglected. He said, that at a third rental rip-off hearing, he said his administration would release a housing plan based on tenant complaints in early May. But if the tenants don't understand that the problem are the politicians, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, this is crazy. It's using the useful idiots to keep your power. That's what Mamdani is doing. National multifamily operators, listen to this. And real estate investment trusts can better endure this turbulent period because they have greater financial flexibility and generally have other investments to offset their losses. So they can wait Mamdani out. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe they'll buy the units from the small mom and pop landlords, and they'll just be able to wait Mamdani out because they can afford it. They're national chains or they're major real estate investors. So essentially, this guy that said he was for the little guy, Mamdani, is all he's doing is emboldening the big guy. And I'm not against anybody being rich, but if you're running for office saying you're going to help the poor, meanwhile, all you're doing is killing the American dream for the poor and the middle class. Come on, man. I hope that you guys don't continue to fall for this guy, Mamdani. He is, I consider a politician like him absolutely evil, in my opinion. And the fact that that guy that walked up to him is his base, those are his base voters. It's absolutely insane to me. These firms are the main beneficiaries of median rents, according to the Wall Street Journal, for Manhattan apartments that are hitting a record high of $5,000 a month. So the medium rental rate in New York City, $5,000 a month. And guys, I guarantee you that's probably some or caught that don't have a bedroom, Gabe. Good Lord, I forget what they're called. But anyway, basically like an efficiency, basically a flat. You get a little toilet, bathroom in there, and then you're a studio type apartment. That's what I'm thinking of. So Mamdani said the rent freeze is crucial to the survival of lower income New Yorkers. So it's crucial for lower income New Yorkers. So the tenants get to stay, but they have to stay in facilities that are going to go to crap, basically, because the owners don't have the money to fix them up. He said a property tax increase would be a last resort to balance the city budget if he can't convince the governor of a tax hike on the wealthy. Well, there's coming housing plan would include efforts to lower insurance costs, and reform the property tax system to help struggling rent stabilized properties. So remember, reforming the property tax system is taxing the rich. And they said that his housing plan would include efforts to lower insurance costs. Efforts to lower insurance costs. I doubt that's going to happen because I've got a sneaky suspicion that these people are probably donors to the Democrat Party. A guy by the name of Eric Bonham said, "I'm not a gigantic REIT that can just go weather the storm." REIT. He just sold 30 unit building in Richmond Hill neighborhood of Queens that has been in his family since 1988. He can no longer afford the unit. This is going to be happening more and more. So he sold his unit, and now he and I believe his mother They spent months sifting through mementos in this building, but the money that they were able to profit from that real estate in New York, they're gonna invest in a small property in Miami. So this is insane. Small landlords' financial plight again didn't start with Mamdani. It started with De Blasio, another communist, and things are only going to get worse. The Wall Street Journal reports that proved deadly for the rent-stabilized market. Landlords were suddenly behind on piles of much more expensive debt. Property values plummeted. Lenders posted record losses and froze up from 2019 to 2025. The volume of lending to the city's rent-stabilized properties dropped 59%. And it's not going to get any better with Mamdani. Some small landlords are holding on. A guy by the name of Howard Port said he has no choice but to keep the rent-stabilized Brooklyn building that his family has owned for 3 generations. The 65-year-old currently owes $24 million on the loan. His family has owned the building for 3 generations. Though he could likely sell for around $30 million, the associated capital gains tax from the sale would exceed his profit and bankrupt him. Did you hear that? The capital gains, the capital gains tax from the sale would exceed his profit and bankrupt him. That is insane. He says, I can't sell. I will be destroyed. So you live in New York City, you get commies in office, you get property taxes, capital gains taxes. This man could walk away with $6 million. You know what you could do with $6 million in Florida? I mean, he can't get it in New York. I mean, they'll punish him. What do they have? Don't they have a death tax? They have he can't even get the money in New York. He would have to Florida. He bought it for 24. He owed 24 million on it. He could sell it for 30 million, walk away, $6 million in your pocket. Do you know what you can buy in the state of Florida for $6 million? Let alone you would never have to, you would never have to work again. Invest your money wisely, whatever, live off of that, live off of the interest. But I mean, you could buy a gorgeous home here for $500,000. It's insane. Poor doesn't have a 401k. His retirement fund was his building, which he said used to be worth $60 million. Wow. But he said half the building's value was wiped away after the passage of the 2009 rent law. See, this is the real deal. This is the real deal. They want these people to walk away from these buildings. I think the government, under the leadership of Mamdani, they want to be the owners of this property. He's a communist after all. You will own nothing and you will be happy. So they passed these laws, these rent stabilized laws, these rent control laws under De Blasio in 2019, and automatically his building plummets from a net value, a net worth of $60 million all the way to $30 million. And you're like, I don't feel sorry for him. $30 million. Again, he owes $24 million on this building. Other family owners are selling to corporations that can better absorb cost shocks, so the big guys are winning. By 2014, corporations were buying almost 4 times as many properties from individuals as the other way around, according to an analysis by the housing research nonprofit Just Fix. That represents a stark change from the 2000s, when property sales from corporate owners to individuals were roughly equal to those from individuals to corporations. Guys, you will own nothing and be happy. This is communism at play inside of New York City. I'm afraid that, man, this is only going to get worse. Today, corporate landlords own 90.2% of New York City's multifamily housing stock, and the private individuals only own 9.8%. It was just 50-50 20 years ago. Okay. I just want to do a quick one on the New York Post story about the gay guy. What audio? Oh, I was thinking about that. No way. Yeah, that was. Let me see what it is. Oh, yeah. Why? Here it is. Why rich landlords are okay. I'll send it again here because it is hard to see. Why rich landlords are getting richer under Gabe's best friend. Sure. Okay. Under Mandan. Oh, I appreciate that, Sue. I wish I were back on there or somewhere else at this point. So pray for me that I will land, that I'll land somewhere right now. We'll keep fighting here on the podcast. And who knows? Well, who knows what the Lord? We're working hard to be seen, so who knows what the Lord has for us in the future. But I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate you tuning in here as well. Really appreciate that. Gabe, let's talk about your best friend. The No, the gay Ayatollah. Oh man. Oh goodness gracious. This is absolutely insane. Um I forgot the rest of my notes outside of here, but I'm going to skip them. I wanted to mention some things on the tip sheet this morning. Oh man, and I probably should have brought my glasses. Oh, I did. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, as they say in the West. Trump policy, Gulf Cooperation Council issue. Okay, good stuff. All right, good stuff, good stuff. U.S. Marines headed to the Middle East. Yeah. Okay. All right, we can go ahead here. Gabe, I want to make sure that I have a thing in my phone. Okay, yeah, let's do this. I'm ready. After I take a sip and take off my glasses. I don't want to wear them. They're cricket. Yep. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. This is your daily dose of freedom. All right, guys. I got to get into this story, and I'll bring you some news too. I'm sure that you've heard of this story too about the Ayatollah's son. The Ayatollah's son. Apparently, the New York Post reported this earlier that basically behind closed doors, Trump was briefed that Iran's new supreme leader is probably gay. Do we have that cut, Gabe? I think it was cut number 12 on the cut sheet. If that's wrong, don't play it. I'll look on the cut sheet momentarily. But I want to I want to get back to this. I'm just trying to imagine this now. All right, guys. Here's a dirty little secret. And if you were watching earlier, you probably heard R.C. Williams say it. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of men in that region are gay. One of the stories I've had some buddies that have fought in the wars in the Middle East. A couple family members that have done missions out there. And one of the things that I did not know until they informed me of this is that a lot of these men out there like little boys. And so it isn't a surprise, sadly, that some of these people would be into men. This myth, you guys may remember Ahmadinejad, the former president, who, by the way, of Iran, who was killed in, I believe, in the first bombing by the U.S. military. He said one time that there were no gay people, there were no gay people in Iran. Apparently, he forgot to mention, or he forgot about the Ayatollah's son, because apparently he was. So now, remember, the reports are that the Ayatollah's son, who's supposed to be the next supreme leader, is allegedly in a coma. Nobody even knows if the guy's alive. I'm doubtful that the guy's alive, but maybe he is. But allegedly, if he is, he's in a coma. He's now missing a leg, one of his legs, as a result of the bombing. Was either lost or perhaps had to be amputated. I don't know. But now we hear about the problem with the third leg. And apparently, this guy. Now, listen, I have no problem. They're gay people, whatever. But when it comes to the Ayatollah, and no, as a Christian, no, I don't believe in homosexual relationships. But what I'm saying is, people, if you're not a believer, you're not a believer. All right. But when it comes to the Ayatollah, when it comes to the supreme leader, you want a tough guy. I can imagine. Remember, his dad was telling people allegedly that this guy was impotent, and he went to the UK to fix his problems with his lower region, if you will. But apparently that wasn't the case. Apparently he was getting some brainwashing in the UK. Maybe he was hanging around with Prince Andrew, trying to learn how to like little girls as opposed to little boys. That was not nice. But anyway, you get my drift. You understand what I mean. And by the way, that's wrong. Maybe they both should be in jail. Well, the Ayatollah is probably dead, but nonetheless, the guy, apparently it wasn't a problem with being impotent. Apparently the problem was he just liked men. And so could you imagine the Ayatollah, this guy taking over for the Ayatollah, being the next supreme leader? Again, this is why his dad had concerns, and him having to kill someone, perhaps someone that he's attracted to, or a man that's handsome. And he was like, no, I want to save him from me. I'm not blowing him up. You never know how this guy would have reacted. So apparently that was part of the issue. Let's play cut number 11. And then I want to get into this New York Post column, simply because I just find this crazy. I find this fun. And apparently President Trump reacted to it. So if we have that cut, let's go to cut number 11. I believe it is, Gabe.
President Trump was stunned to learn that U.S. intelligence indicates new Iranian Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei may be gay, and that his father, the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, feared his suitability to rule the Islamic Republic for that reason, the Post can reveal. Trump couldn't contain a surprise and laughed aloud when he was briefed on the intel, according to sources. Others in the room also found it, quote, hilarious, and joined the president's reaction, while one senior intelligence official has not stopped laughing about it for days, said one person familiar with the briefing. The shocking claim was described to the Post by two intelligence community officials and a third person close to the White House. All three sources say the implausible-sounding allegation is viewed as credible by U.S. spy agencies. Two of the sources said the intelligence indicates that Mojtaba has had a long-term sexual relationship with his childhood tutor. The third source said the intelligence indicated the affair was with a person who formerly worked for the Khamenei family. Mojtaba, who is believed to have been wounded in the same February 28th airstrike that killed his father and other members of his family, has made aggressive sexual overtures to men caring for him, possibly while under the influence of heavy medication, one of the Post sources said. U.S. spy agencies do not have photographic evidence of the 56-year-old's alleged sexual attraction to men, but the sources insisted the tip is solid, with one saying it was derived from one of the most protected sources that the government has. The fact that this was elevated to the highest of high levels shows you there's some confidence in this, added a second source.
All right, so again, that was the New York... that was the New York Post column. Again, the Ayatollah's son might be gay, or was allegedly gay, and you do have to be concerned. This guy was trying to take over. If this guy was supposed to be the heir apparent to take over the Ayatollah's role, and he was the commander of the IRGC, I mean, you can imagine that frankly, one of the IRGC soldiers could seduce him, or a guy or an enemy could seduce him. Somebody that wanted to get in close to him and learn secrets could seduce him. And obviously, this could happen with a woman too. But let's be honest, especially if you're living that lifestyle as a homosexual man and you're non-committed. I know they say a long time lover was a childhood tutor. I don't know if he was committed to this guy or not, assuming again that this is true. But it makes total sense. If the issue, he doesn't have children, they were claiming the Iranians were the Iranian leadership. I guess that this guy was impotent, but apparently he wasn't impotent. Apparently the guy was just gay. So I just find that hilarious. And by the way, a completely from the fact that these people will go around and sadly abuse a young boys. I mean, it's one of the things that they do in parts of the Middle East that are uncivilized. I mean, I remember hearing a story and actually reading a story as well that basically boys were for play for men, sadly. And I'm sorry that I'm not being so I'm just being blunt and open here, so I'm sorry if this is a little tough to hear, but this is what they do there, many of them, because it is an uncivilized nation. It is a morally bankrupt nation. I mean, look at the way that they treat their women. Look at the way that they, frankly, even treat prisoners and enemies. These are a sick bunch of people. So I just found this story completely funny, to be honest with you. On another note, I wanted to bring you guys real quickly up to speed on this Temple Israel shooting because now we've got more information. And remember, we've had 4 terrorist attacks in the last few weeks. So, as R.C. Williams said in an earlier podcast, he was concerned that our campaign a war against Iran might spark up some feelings inside of people here that could be part of sleeper cells. I actually think that's a good thing. I don't want to see people harmed in the United States of America, but I figure better now as opposed to a Democrat getting in office, letting more people in, and then doing nothing about the terrorists that are in our midst right now. But you have the New York City attempted bombers that literally threw bombs at Jake Lang and his crew, the anti-Islamist protesters or anti-Ayatollah protesters. You have the guy in Austin, Texas, the property of Allah guy, the Temple Israel terrorist attack. You had the Old Dominion terrorist attack. Now, listen to this. This also from the New York Post. I'll just give you a quick synopsis because we're running out of time here. The brother of a terrorist who rammed a vehicle into a Michigan Jewish preschool was a Hezbollah commander. The Israeli Defense Forces, according to the IDF. All right, Ayman Mohammed Ghazali. I don't even care to pronounce his name correctly. He was 41. He was shot dead after driving the vehicle into the Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan, last week. Now, his brother, Ibrahim Muhammad Ghazali, or Ghazali, whatever, was responsible for managing weapons operations within a specialized branch of Hezbollah's Badr unit, BADR, the IDF said in a statement. The unit of the Lebanese terror group, it's responsible for launching hundreds of rockets towards Israeli civilians throughout the recent war with Iran, according to the IDF. So the mainstream media keeps reporting. They'll report about this guy. They'll report about how the F killed his family members, or killed his brother, killed some family members. But they failed to mention that his brother was part of the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, terrorist proxy Hezbollah. So I feel like that is a big detail to miss. So apparently this guy was lashing out. The truth of the matter is, guys, that anybody that would take a life in order to lash out, they were going to do it anyway. Not only do we need to control illegal immigration, but legal immigration in this country too, because this guy was a legal immigrant, nationalized. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to today's edition of the Carl Jackson Show. Really appreciate you being out there. Please share this podcast, like, share, and subscribe. Certainly appreciate that. And I appreciate those of you that tuned in and appreciate the nice comments out there. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good, and God bless you.